Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first ever episode of W.A.T.A Data with me, Josh the Scientist Phillips. I'm going to give you an introduction to my power ranking system. I hope you enjoy it. So you may well ask why even bother with a power ranking system? Well, I guess in tournament fishing, it's not just about catching the biggest fish in one event. It's about consistency and skill over the entire series. So that's the purpose of the power ranking system. Instead of just looking at each event individually, it crunches the numbers across all of the tournaments and gives us a better picture of who's really on top. We all know fishing can be unpredictable with weather, tides, time of year, luck, you name it, they can all play a part. But with a power ranking system, we're going to level the playing field. It's not just about one lucky day on the water or a bad day on the water, it's about your overall performance throughout the series. Now, you're not just thinking about winning the event, you're thinking longer term across multiple seasons, even. That's the beauty of the system. It should keep people invested. It keeps you coming back for more and it makes the competition more angler focused. It can also help you become more strategic. So rather than focusing solely on winning an individual event, anglers can consider their cumulative performance on their power ranking, which it might lead to some more strategic or nuanced decision making about which events to compete in and how to prepare. And for fans, it's a game changer as well. So instead of just watching event after event, we get a storyline. So we see who's climbing up the ranks, who's slipping, who's dominating the whole series. It adds a whole new dimension to the sport. So whether you're out there on the water or cheering from the sidelines, I really do hope that this power ranking system will take the tournament fishing to a new level. It should make it fair, strategic, and most importantly, it will make the competition more exciting. And here's how it works. So it might look complicated, but it's actually pretty simple, and I'll break it down for you now. So firstly, the minimum score that you can win for an event is 0.1%, and the maximum that you can earn is 100%. So that's a perfect score, and I'll explain how to get a perfect score. So you need the winning bag. That's the first step. That accounts for 60% of your perfect score. The next step is you need to get the big brim for that event. That gets you a further 20% of your perfect score. And then lastly, you need to get your full bag limit, and that gets you your last 20% of your perfect score. The only other thing I'll mention then is that the decay factor that's applied, because we're comparing results over time, those results that are most recent have a stronger weighting than those older results. So anything older than 5 years, it doesn't count. So these are the current overall top 20, which means that this is including both the boat and kayak formats. Now, it's only ever going to show the top 20 in these tables. If you're sitting outside that top 20 and you want to know where you're positioned, you can always just contact me and I can give you a bit of background data. But there are power rankings for boats and kayaks separately. And then there are also further power rankings across each of the relevant arenas that we fish. So you can have boat rankings for the Swan River or kayak rankings for the Blackwood, just as examples. There's lots and lots of ways that we can slice and dice the power rankings, which is, again, just adds this other element to the whole scoring system. So I mentioned previously about the power rankings creating a storyline or a narrative, and that's what this is. So this is the 5 years leading up to now, and you can see the journey of each of those anglers over that period. And the story that this is telling us is that Alex and Joe and Ben Oakes and Travis, these guys are the ones to beat. They're all competing in both kayaks and boat formats, hence the system is inevitably favouring their participation in those, but they are actually just performing really consistently. There's definitely a gap below those guys as well. You can see Jenny Gardner has certainly started accelerating up the ranks since she's been competing in the boat rounds with her son Joe. So yeah, that's the story that this is telling us. You can read into all of those other movements what you like. One of the interesting things for me out of all of this is seeing Adrian accelerating as well. So you can see that sort of lilac color there. He's really been moving up the ranks and performing, strong in both kayak and increasingly in the boat rounds. So these are the things why we're running these power rankings, to sort of start seeing what's going on behind the scenes, and in between events and across seasons. So this is the overall power ranking, so including both kayaks and boats, but just split out across the different locations or arenas that we fish. So some of these venues like Collie and Moore River are kayak only venues, and Walpole is a boat only venue. But nonetheless, this gives you a picture of, yeah, how everyone's ranking across the different systems. Again, just a top 20 snapshot. So it's not just about the position of an angler in the ranks, it's about their relative movements through the ranks. And that's what Monster Movers is about. So this is showing a snapshot from season 23, the top 20 Monster Movers. So those anglers that are really shooting up the ranks. I guess a couple of standouts here. Carl State, he's a seasoned tournament angler, recently relocated to WA. He's fished his first full tournament season here in the boats with Matt DeBoer. He's really shooting up the ranks. And in kayaks, I love watching this because this is often the entry point for a lot of anglers into tournament fishing. And we've had Jack Hunter and James Leadbeater with some strong results and leaping up the ranks there. So I can't wait to see what happens with these guys in season 24. So now we've got all the data. It's not just about the anglers. We can also have a fish focus, and that's what this does. This shows us the fish weights across the different systems that we fish, and I guess the standouts here. Well, Mandurah, it's clearly a big fish venue. So the biggest brim that's captured in WA tournaments in the last 5 years has come from Mandurah. The largest bag has come from Mandurah. The median weights are big in Mandurah. It doesn't tell you the full story though, because it doesn't show you how hard those bags are to catch there. So that's a separate bit of information, which I can show you separately. But the other standout at the other end of the spectrum is Walpole. Now, I think we all know the fish there are small. Maybe it's the genetics, their diet, who knows, they're small fish, but that's the spread. We've got 7 different fisheries here with quite different results. So I found that really fascinating. I hope you find that interesting too. So I mentioned before that the spread of the weights across each of those systems doesn't tell you the full story. This is the other half of that story that you really need to understand, the donut data. So this is the catchability of the fish in each of those systems. So what this is telling me is that although Mandurah has some really big fish, they're not easy to catch. So 38% of the anglers in Mandurah will go home with a donut. Um, Similarly, well, Collie, it's the toughest venue of all. It's only had a couple of kayak events held there in the last 5 years, but nonetheless, 56% of those anglers have gone home with nothing. So yeah, this is the full story. Albany at the other end of the spectrum is a standout venue for full bags. They may not always be big in Albany. There are certainly some big ones there, but they're plentiful and relatively easy to catch. So if you're a newcomer to tournament angling, you'd probably suggest focus on Albany. Maybe don't go to Collie for your first event, or Mandurah for that matter. But these are all parts of the story that I think this data is showing us. So shifting focus back to the anglers now, and this is the winners circle showing us that across 41 events in the last 5 years, we've had 34 unique winners. So I guess that what that tells me is that each of these events, it's anybody's to win, really. There are only a handful of exceptions in there where you can see that certain anglers dominate at particular venues. So you've got Alex in Mandurah, and myself and Travis actually in Albany, where we've had 3 wins each at those respective venues. Now, last but not least, it's the Big Brim Club. Look, this is a fascinating little snapshot of who has caught the biggest brim in WA tournaments in the last 5 years. It's going to be really hard to top this one. We've got Paddy Gill and Paul Coyne sitting up there in first place with a monster brim they caught in Mandurah in 2021 at 1.69 kilos. So, yep, good luck trying to beat that one. That's the fish that's pictured there in the background there. Only other thing I'll point out on this is that even though there's only been 41 events, there's 42 big brim that are listed here, and that's because there was a tie on a big brim in a Swan River round. I think it was a kayak round where Ian Abercrombie and Paul Samasco tied. There you go. According to my system, you both share the spoils on that. Look, that's it. I hope you really enjoyed hearing about some of the stats and the power ranking system that I'm developing. It's just going to be running in parallel to the tournament this series, and I'll be releasing a few of these little episodes along the way as event previews. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please get in touch with me and let me know if there's certain things that you would like to hear about, certain insights that you might have gained from some of the data. Yeah, stay tuned. Cheers. Bye bye.